Hi all, my name is Ryan and welcome to my channel What the Pop, where we discuss pop culture in general and Buffy a lot. So first up, a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Buffy at least once, I may talk about things in each episode that relate to future plot points. So if you don't like spoilers, I suggest you subscribe and come back after you've watched it all. Today we are looking at the second part of the episode premiere, Season 1, Episode 2, The Harvest. Plot summary. We start where the previous episode left off, Buffy in a precarious position with Luke. The cross gives him a sick burn. She escapes, rescues Xander and Willow, can't rescue Jesse. Back at the library, we learn about demons, vampires and the Slayer. Please keep this a secret. More master stuff, Jesse is now bait. Buffy mounts a rescue, Angel warns her, goes underground anyway. Xander follows. They find Jesse. Eek! He's a vampire! They escape. Vampires suck. Apocalypse is going to happen, at the Bronze. Buffy gets grounded, goes out anyway. Luke is the vessel, Buffy breaks in, kicks some butt. Buffy kills Luke because he's a stupid moron. Apocalypse thwarted. Master's still stuck, witty chatting, Earth is doomed, and everyone simply forgot Xander and Willow's friend just died. Now I'm putting these two themes together because in the context of this episode, they are linked. As I stated in the last episode, Buffy had already accepted her role as Slayer, and we are reminded again that Buffy had accepted her role in the library scene. After Giles has finished explaining about demons, how vampires were created, and the origin of the Slayer, the first thing Xander asks is, how do you kill them? Again, Buffy reiterates that she is the Slayer, that she is the one girl in all the world, when she says, you don't, I do. And then she claims responsibility for Jesse being taken too. But this scene shows us how this time will be different, and why Buffy will be a different Slayer to those who have come before her. She tries to isolate herself. She's trying to be like Sinea and the previous Slayers. But the simple fact is, Xander and Willow don't let her. They already know her secret. They know about vampires, and immediately Willow is able to help with her computer skills. Already they're establishing this chosen family as central to the story and what will distinguish Buffy from the previous Slayers. Even after Xander says, so what's the plan? We saddle up, right? And Buffy replies, there's no we, okay? I'm the Slayer and you're not. Despite this, Xander comes anyway. We also get an inkling of how Buffy sees it as her duty and hers alone in the next scene with Principal Flutie, when she's trying to leave school in the middle of the day. Principal Flutie says, and where do we think we're going? And Buffy says, we, I. Again, indicating that she sees that as just her responsibility. But already we see that the friends-as-family relationship firmly cemented by the end of this episode. This family will be what differentiates Buffy from all the Slayers that have come before her. It will be the reason that she cheats real death by drowning when she is resuscitated by Xander, and later on magical death when she is resurrected by Willow. From the first episode, we are introduced to this metaphor. From the first shot of the school at night, being a place where actual monsters walk, from the juxtaposition of Buffy's dreams about the demons she must face, and then having to wake up and face a very real demon for teenagers the first day of the new school, to Cordelia very clearly mapping out the social hierarchy and what is required to fit in. The struggle to survive, to find who you are, to negotiate the social minefield. Joss Whedon himself said something like, everything in high school seems so hyper-realistic. This is because it occurs at a time in your life when you are discovering yourself and going through all these changes, both physical and mental. And doing it in a microcosm where you are under constant scrutiny for the choices you make and the things you do. But this theme is pretty much explicitly pointed out in the scene where Buffy's mum, Joyce, grounds her from going out. And she says, I know. If you don't go out, it'll be the end of the world. Everything is life or death when you're a 16-year-old girl. And that's basically the overarching theme of the entire show for the first 3 seasons. It takes the monster of the week as an external representation of the issues faced by kids in high school. In an interview on the subject of a reboot or a reunion of her Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar said, It was about the horror of adolescence and those manifest into the actual monsters that were the monsters in our show. And I don't know where that necessarily translates into today. She said something similar in another interview, saying that she was too old to play a teenager. In other words, Sarah understood the central premise of the show, that she helmed for 7 years, and exactly what made it work. It was no coincidence that the Hellmouth itself was located not just in Sunnydale, but directly under the high school. Now, Joss Whedon himself is an avowed atheist, and in Buffy he certainly mocks religion at times, but he also venerates it. When Giles is explaining demons to the Scoobies, he says, contrary to popular mythology, the world did not begin as a paradise, which is most definitely a swipe at the idea of the Garden of Eden from Genesis in the Bible. Yet in Joss's world, religious items still have power. They have power over the demons, vampires particularly being susceptible to crosses and holy water. And we see in Buffy's weapon kit a bunch of Eucharist hosts, which presumably would have a similar burning effect to the crosses and holy water. We also see in the character of Luke a direct reference to Luke the Evangelist, one of the supposed canonical writers of the Bible. This direct relation is fairly easy to see, as the character of Luke often seems to be quoting older texts when he is speechifying. Luke was probably chosen specifically because Luke the Evangelist supposedly wrote over a quarter of the texts that make up the New Testament, meaning he speechified a lot. Now, in the Buffyverse, when a person becomes a vampire, the human soul is gone and only the demon remains. In the case of Angel's Curse, for example, he had his human soul restored, making him feel guilt for the things he did as a demon. Now, while it's never explicitly mentioned, there are two interesting conclusions we can draw about vampires having their own form of a soul in the Harvest episode. And therefore, other demons may also have their own form of a soul. The first conclusion is that vampires have a soul, at least a demonic soul of some sort, and it is essentially what makes them a vampire. How do we know it's a soul? Well, the Master refers to it as such. When Luke drinks from him to become the vessel, the Master says, "My blood is your blood, my soul is your soul," indicating that whatever it is that demons refer to as a soul, vampires have one. The second conclusion we can draw is that vampires all share the same demon soul. On the creation of the first vampire, Giles says that as the last demon fled this earth, it fed on a human, mixing its essence, who fed on another, creating all the vampires. This essence may be what demons refer to as a soul. So we can see all vampires originated from one demon, meaning they all share the same soul. This is reinforced when Xander says something about Jesse, and Giles says, "When you see him, you have to remember, you're not looking at your friend, you're looking at the thing that killed him." This implies that, although Jesse was turned by a different vampire, they are all part of the same demon, so that when Jesse becomes a vampire, he becomes the demon that killed him. In this episode, we already see the change that being around Buffy has had and will continue to have on Willow. Whereas in the previous episode, Willow was mousy around Cordelia, in this episode, when Cordelia is bad-mouthing Buffy, Willow defends her, something she has never done for herself. We establish in this episode that Buffy finds him attractive, and we learn in a much later episode that Angel already felt for her before she came to Sunnydale. While their initial playful interaction in the alley in the previous episode shows the spark, it's the more poignant one in the mausoleum that shows the connection. They both feel alone. Buffy is going to save a potential friend. Angel is stumped at being asked, "Do you know what it's like to have a friend?" In that moment, there is a connection between them, a loneliness that is drawing them to each other, and all that is felt in a long, lingering look. Speaking of Angel, there's also a subtle hint in this episode that he is not all he appears to be. After Buffy has staked the vessel and we see Angel outside the bronze, he says, "She did it, I'll be damned," then leaves. But the shot lingers after he's walked off, and the only prominent thing in the frame is a crate saying, "Watch your step." At the end of this episode, also talking about getting kicked out of school, Willow says to Buffy, "Maybe you could blow something up. They're really strict about that." Which of course, Buffy does at the end of season 3. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this look into Buffy, please like, subscribe, and check out some other videos now.